Yeah, sometimes I wake up in the morning and I'm like...
So you're going to bury him in a sitting position?
Yeah, a reclined seated position.
Okay. And you've been testing the snow density?
Yeah, we've got 37% snow.
Is that, how does that compare to like a regular avalanche situation?
Avalanche debris ranges between 30 and 60%. So our tests show that it's pretty much always right in the middle about where avalanche debris is, especially for cold Utah snow.
Uh-huh. Why do you use the reclining position?
Primarily to keep the subject comfortable as possible, because the whole process is quite uncomfortable. We don't want to make everything else compounded by the fact that they have to lay on their side or have their head down or whatever. So we really want to be able to test the physiologic functions in the Avalon together and not introduce other constraints that would terminate the test early because the subject's so uncomfortable.
So how many of these burials have you done?
We've probably done over 100 burials, probably about 50 people. We've had 2 people go for 2 hours total, including myself.
Wow.
I've done it 15 times for a total of 24 hours. And I hold the record, I guess.
Wow. You guys did a burial yesterday, right?
Did a burial yesterday with the backpack, and the first subject went for 2 hours easily. Could have easily gone longer, but we decided that we were cold on the surface, so we stopped.
How long does the average person last without the Avalon?
Well, depending on the conditions, assuming that the person has no trauma, first of all, and assuming that they have no airspace at all, within 5 to 10 minutes they're unconscious, within 15 to 30 minutes they're dead.
So have you done some control testing, burying people with the monitors without the Avalon?
That's right. And today we will do that. At the end of this test, we will dig down to the person's face, uncover the Avalung tubing itself. I'll actually cut it with a pair of scissors and cover the tube with a piece of mesh to prevent snow from coming in. And then we'll give them about a fist-size air pocket, bury it back up again, and let them breathe on that. It's basically simulating if they have no Avalung whatsoever. And they'll typically last 1.5 to 3 minutes before the CO2 levels get so intense that they call the test off.
Wow. All right, well, I guess we're ready for the test, eh?
Yep, we're ready. You all psyched?
Well, I'm psyched. We're ready.
You can have a seat there. Kind of lean over.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to bury you kind of slowly. I'm taking my time to really concentrate on very carefully packing you in. I need you to be aware of your body and the space around you and direct me if I have any gaps anywhere.
Okay.
If you find that you have a gap somewhere, then you need to let me know and I have to get back down there and pack those areas in.
All right.
Okay, it's really important that we have a very good firm pack around your whole body.
All right.
We really want to try to simulate a real avalanche with no airspace whatsoever, and for the testing purposes it's much better for us if we have a complete, very good pack around you. And we're not going to pressure you to stay. If you get uncomfortable for any reason whatsoever and you want to stop, that's 100% your call. Okay? We won't pressure you at all, and we want you to be comfortable with what you're doing in context of this test, which is not comfortable at all. This test flat out sucks. It's not very fun.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Deb.
Can somebody hand me a small shovel?
Hi, Jordan.
So what I'm doing is getting through all of our pulse oximeter probes. This is for the forehead probe here. There you go.
Poke around, okay.
Let me check
Found some?
Find it.
You saved some? Are all pulse oximeters on now?
No, they're not hooked up at all yet.
Okay.
I'm still getting ready to do that.
Okay.
How many burials have you done using the backpack model?
This will be the third one.
Third one.
Did 2 burials yesterday. Okay, Craig, I'm going to step back beside you.
Work the grid.
What I'm doing is I'm hooking up the Avalung to the mouthpiece assembly and the medical monitoring equipment. Inside this insulated chamber I have a device that measures the percentage of carbon dioxide in the air and also the flow rate, so we can measure the tidal volume. We also have hooked up to here is a backup oxygen line, so if something goes wrong or if we want to give him extra air, we can flood his chamber with 15 liters per minute of oxygen. So what I'm going to do now is hook the Avalung up.
The generator's quit. This thing has battery backup. And so that's why all these things are plugged into battery backup. Yeah, there might be another area like we did.
You put some hand warmers in there to keep the circulation going so the sensors work well.
I'm ready for snow. Along his back, fresh snow, please. Like that.
Forehead looks good.
Steady. It was just the connector, I think.
Forehead looks good.
Okay. Slow down the snow for a minute. Okay, we're ready for a radio check. Stop the snow.
I can hear everything loud and clear. Just breathing on that mouthpiece, in and out.
Full burial. Okay, shovel like crazy.
Senses arterial flow, and that's the little green thing going up is arterial flow through the finger. Craig is buried under the snow right now, completely buried, breathing on the pack Avalung, and we're monitoring several different things. First, we're monitoring his oxygenation with pulse oximeters. We actually have several pulse oximeters on him, 4. Pulse oximeters measure the percent of hemoglobin carrying oxygen. And they do that when they go on the finger, they just shine a wavelength of light through the finger that has differential absorption between hemoglobin carrying oxygen and hemoglobin not carrying oxygen. Normal at sea level is above 95%. Normal at this altitude, 90 to 95% of the hemoglobin are carrying oxygen. And his different pulse oximeters right now read 93%, 92%, 94%. And we have one special pulse oximeter on the forehead. It's 96%. Pulse oximeters also give us his heart rate because they're sensing the arterial pulse, and that's about 77 right now. The reason we have multiple pulse oximeters is 3 of them are in his fingers, and during this burial, people get cold and they have their blood vessels in their hands clamped down because they're cold, and sometimes we can lose the reading on the fingers. So we have one special technology that's a forehead sensor that most of the time will keep reading even when the person has shut down the blood flow to their fingers because they're cold. Then we also measure his heart rhythm with an EKG, and that looks totally normal right now. And then we measure the amount of expired carbon dioxide in his breath and the inspired carbon dioxide in his breath. That's very important because during avalanche burial, the reason that people suffocate is they start to rebreathe their own air. And we breathe in 21% oxygen and essentially very little, less than 0.03% carbon dioxide, but we breathe out 16% oxygen and 5% carbon dioxide. Buried in an avalanche, rebreathing your own air will result in low inspired oxygen, high inspired carbon dioxide, and that will cause a rapidly decreasing oxygen level in the blood and increasing carbon dioxide level. That's why people suffocate from avalanche burial. So what the Avalon does is it diverts all expired air away from where the inspired air is coming from. And so we see that his inspired carbon dioxide is a little higher than normal, but it's at a level that's very tolerable right now. And that'll be the limitation. If his inspired carbon dioxide starts to go up because the expired air is diffusing through the snowpack and getting to the valve housing on the Avalung, that's the limitation. So generally we see a gradually increasing inspired CO2, but right now it's very low. It's maybe 1 or 2%. Generally we end studies at around 6-7%. Just breathing on the Avalung, the inspired CO2 is 0. And it's now, when Chris said he buried the exhaust port, it shot up to 3 or 4. And then when we buried the Avalung, it shot up, and he was buried, it shot up to like 10. And it just gradually rises. Right now it's at 14. And 14, it's easier to think of it in terms of percent inspired carbon dioxide. So 14, we have a barometric barometer right there. Barometric pressure is 562. He's got 2.5% inspired carbon dioxide right now.
And it's still quite low.
Yeah, that's low. I mean, it's not normal, but it's low. We've done whole studies for 60 minutes having people breathe 5% inspired carbon dioxide. So,
But at 6 you pull them out.
well, we don't pull them out, but people really start to feel the effects of carbon dioxide once it's 6 or 7%. The reason that we would pull somebody out is if I see that carbon dioxide going up, then closely following that, the oxygen will be dropping. So our threshold is if the oxygen hits 85%, then we're going to end the study. 85% arterial oxygen saturation is about what you would be, I described it to Craig, he's from California. If he's climbed to the top of Mount Whitney, he'd have an arterial oxygen saturation of about 85%.
So how's he doing?
He's doing terrific. He's at 45 minutes and everything looks good. CO2 is gradually rising, but it's at a level maybe 3-4% inspired CO2 right now. Looking good.
Yeah, 45 minutes.
45 minutes into it.
Do you think a lot of that is from the separation of the pack clouds, or?
You mean the reason why it's doing better?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
It really seems like you put the exhaust port back here and the inspiratory valve here. It's a longer distance, and it's really working well.
After Craig had spent a full hour buried under the snow, Dr. Grissom decided it was time to begin the second half of the test, in which Chris would cut the breathing tube and cover Craig back up with snow to see how long he could last without the Avalon.
Okay, we're disconnected on the Avalung.
Okay.
And you're going to hit the O2 bottle when he needs it? Yeah.
48 and 30. Okay, let's just end it. Turn the oxygen on. Tell them on the intercom we're turning the oxygen on. We're turning the oxygen on.
A little less than a minute.
No, just keep
Less than a minute.
A little less than a minute. It started getting pretty quick CO2.
He was squirming and not being too comfortable now.
Yeah. Just cut downward that way. Elbows. Oh, feet on
Nice
his
job,
head.
Craig.
Oh, good work.
How'd you feel, Craig? Good. Yeah, you're calm. How'd the without feel?
Oh yeah. In fact, from 45 minutes on, it's like I'm not looking forward to that. I can tell.
Good work. Go get yourself warm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice job, Craig.
Get a warm jacket.
Could be cold for a minute.
Little.
Not too bad.
You want to ask him a couple quick questions? Actually,
So Craig, what was it like?
Freaky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you feel a lot more comfortable under there, though, being able to breathe on the Avalung as compared to when they took it off you?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you lasted an
Night and
hour.
day.
Lasted
I
an
lasted
hour.
an hour with the Avalung. I lasted 60 seconds without it.
So what did it feel like as that CO2 started to accumulate when you didn't have it? Was that kind of a panicky feeling?
Yeah, it's definitely panicky. It's definitely I can't breathe.
What was the worst part of the whole thing?
You can't move.
Can't move.
You can't move.
I got that. Yeah.
And that's probably the worst part.
Yeah. What's it like under the snow there? I mean, can you see? I mean, is there light or is it dark? Or?
There's a little light from the
Maybe,
little
but I
intercom,
haven't done before.
and every once in a while that would flash on. I have no idea why.
But I'm definitely
there's your light flashing before you.
That's right. It was the bright light coming at me. No. So
Are you an Avalung believer now?
well, I think I always was,
Yeah.
but now I'm a more firm believer. I never ever want to get caught.